In this video, I want to show you the 10 ways on how to get ahead of 99% of other business owners and founders and really be part of that 1%. By the way, if we haven't met yet, my name is Emmanuel. I am kind of the chief talking head guy over here at Square One Group, where really our mission is to help solopreneurs grow and scale their business using systems. Now, I've been doing a lot of different 9-to-5 jobs since really the early 2000s. For example, I worked in a radio station. I did marketing and promotions. I did some SEO agency stuff. But at the end of the day, all of these were 9-to-5 jobs. But the reality is I actually ended up working more. Like a lot of these positions, I worked for 12-hour days or maybe even 15-hour days, really in this rat race. And to be honest with you, it completely sucked. It drained my energy. But it wasn't until a mentor of mine really told me about the things that I'm about to share with you in this video. I did them and it basically turned my life around. And now I'm running a company that employs dozens of people, and it's really designed to help solopreneurs scale to $500,000 to even $1 million revenue, just like how it did it for me. Number one, stop thinking that you can. Now, I'm not saying to stop being optimistic. What I'm trying to say is that you need to change where you put your optimism in. Believe it or not, there are things that are not gonna go your way. Actually, this is gonna happen most of the time. And this matters so much. Like, let's say, for example, we have person A. He's way too optimistic with how he's gonna manifest $1 million business plan in a year. He's already counting and planning what he's going to be spending his money on long before he even starts the work, really starts the business. And it's because of this, he thinks he can make a 7-figure business really just by watching a couple 2-hour YouTube videos. And what I'm explaining to you right now is actually called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's where a person that knows less is just super confident because they think they know more. Now, little did person A know that his master plan was way above his skill level. So what essentially happened 3 months in is the plan that he had is kind of out the window. It's chaos. I think Mike Tyson said it best. Everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face, and this guy got punched in the face a bunch of different times. And when this happens, optimism, it crumbles. And this is simply because he didn't plan for it and expect any setbacks in his plan. By the way, I'm saying person A because I actually know this person. I don't want to incriminate him, so we're just gonna keep him person A. But I also want to tell you about person B. Same plan, same time span, same everything. Now, person B, though, already expected bad things to happen because the bottom line is they will happen in your business. Well, what he's expecting is actually called Murphy's Law. He accepts the fact that he will need to learn more than what he knows in his business in order for him to succeed. So instead of counting his blessings way too early, he put his optimism in finding solutions for problems before they ever came up. He's also not afraid to ask advice, like, what can I do about this? Or how should I handle that? On other people that went through the exact same problem that he's facing so that they can actually genuinely help him, like person B. Now take a look at person A and person B situations, and I want you to be honest. Which one are you? Look, to be completely frank, I was person A many times over. There's been a bunch of different iterations of me and my brand that have all failed because I was person A. But the moment I started to become person B was when I realized that I couldn't achieve everything with the things that I know at the specific time that I know them. So what ended up happening was I began to study my business and just business in general more deeply and tested several different approaches to different hypotheses for solving a specific problem. You see, most people, they live in a bubble of their untested plans, and a lot of times what ends up happening is it doesn't work out. But what will work out is just brute confidence in your plan or in your hypothesis of a plan, expecting it to fail. Bottom line here is to focus and proactively think about the challenges that you will encounter, because chances are you will encounter them. And don't be afraid to ask questions too. You need to understand that you don't know everything and you can't do everything, especially on your own. So stop acting like you do, and also stop acting like you can do this all on your own. Number 2, burn bridges. I know this is an unconventional statement and you're probably hesitant to do it, but you should. But you're also probably thinking, Emmanuel, this is my potential network. No, they are not your potential network, and they never will be. People who only stick around when they rely on you for their benefit will get you nowhere. So cutting these people off is the best favor that you can do for yourself instead of surrounding yourself with these type of people. Now, in order for you to burn the bridges or the existing bridges that you currently have, you need to start building your own first. So focus on yourself, learn new things, try new activities, and explore things that you feel you don't know all of that information on your own. When you step out of your comfort zone and you put yourself in situations that are unfamiliar, you get a clear view of who you are and what you really want. And this clarity makes it super easy to see what bridges you no longer lead, and you can just burn them down. Only then are you gonna realize how easy it is to cut people out of that moment, because what it's gonna end up happening is those people are gonna say things like, I tried this and it failed. And instead what will happen is more people that align with your new mission and vision will align themselves with you, and they're gonna be around to actually help guide you. So really ask yourself the question, this person in my life, are they holding me back? Burn the bridge. Are they discouraging me? Burn the bridge. Some of you might think that you can use these people in the future, but here's the honest reality and truth. You don't need these people. They will do more harm to your life than any good. And this all boils down to this very simple philosophy. It's called crab mentality. And the way it works is like this. Imagine that there are a bunch of crabs in a bucket. Now, one crab is going to try to get out, but what ends up happening is all these other crabs are just going to start reaching out and start trying to clamp on this one crab trying to get out and just bring it down, pull it back into the bucket. And as much BS as this sounds, having people that really don't align with what your new mission and your new vision is in your business and your goals are parasites. These are these crabs at the bottom of the bucket just constantly clamoring and hanging on to you, trying to pull you back down. Number 3, fail fast, learn fast. Look, I've been starting businesses for good on 20 plus years now, and I failed 99% of them. Now, of course, the natural human reaction is to get frustrated about those failures, but I kept pushing and pushing because I knew I just needed to make one business work. And it was actually failing fast that helped me grow faster. Listen, I didn't spend a bunch of time dwelling on my mistakes. Instead, what I did was I learned from them and moved on and figured out how not to do something. And because of that, I was able to ramp up the next business and the next business after that a lot quicker in order to get really to a more sustainable business that I can actually live off of. That being said, I eventually started noticing patterns. I became super observant of what I was doing, not to repeat the exact same mistakes, like do this on this business, or there is a high risk, high reward possibility for this business model. And I wouldn't have learned this if I was extremely cautious, hoping to really mitigate risk. So if you want to succeed, you have to be okay with failure and understand that you're going to fail a heck of a lot more times than you're going to win. But when you fail fast and make sure that you learn from that mistake, or else that mistake is just going to happen again and again and again. Number 4, know when to reward yourself. Listen, I believe that your work should deserve at least some reward when you finish it, but I also think that not all work should have a reward big enough to really throw a party. Now listen, I'm not stopping you from giving yourself a nice prize for completing a to-do list. Now, in fact, I'm actually encouraging that you do that because there is something called intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. Now, extrinsic or external motivation is something that you'd have if you want a reward that can be held or used. Basically, it's like a physical thing, a physical reward. Like you finish publishing a book, awesome. Well, I'm gonna go out and eat a tub of ice cream. Oh man, I had this really great workout at the gym. Well, you know what? I'm gonna go grab a coffee that's really sweet after. These things make you love what you're doing, and you'll start loving to do it without the need of a reward in the future. And this turns that extrinsic motivation into intrinsic, which essentially is doing something because you feel satisfied when you complete it, when you finish it, when you do it. Now, some quote unquote gurus will tell you, hey, stop partying, stop drinking, stop doing what you like. And that's something that I'm actually not on board with. Like, hey, if you want to go out and have a drink because you finished a big task after a long day, go out and drink. It's okay. It's fine. If you take the fun out of whatever it is that you're doing, it really just becomes a chore of a task, and you don't get excited over it, and then productivity ends up falling off, and then you end up not getting any work done. Like the whole thing just backfires. So give yourself a reward when and only when you're done with that task. Number 5, be more than good enough. Listen, when I was in high school, I used to hear this a lot. It's good enough. I swear, I hated hearing it. You see, when you start accepting good enough, you end up putting yourself in this mindset where you need to only create the acceptable level, the bare minimum, and that would be good enough for you to conduct yourself and your business. I mean, after all, why spend all this excess energy improving something if it's already good enough? But here's the other piece of good enough. Reality is, it's just another word for being mediocre. This is what's called the status quo bias. And really, I remember my mentor telling me that if you fall into this bias, what ends up happening is you are not gonna grow. You're never gonna be ahead of any of your competitors. So the first thing that you need to do to stop being good enough is to make yourself your own judge and start asking yourself, like, you know how they say everyone is your own worst critic? Well, this is factually true because people normally have high standards when they're doing something. And when you let other people judge you and somebody says what you're doing is good enough, you're subconsciously lowering your standards because you realize that there's really no point in doing something above and beyond whatever everybody is kind of thinking, or everyone that's happy at being at that level. And then sooner or later, what will end up happening is you get sucked into the bandwagon of being mediocre and essentially falling back into this whole rat race. Bottom line, you need to always set high standards, not for others, but for yourself, because this is what will make you stand out from everybody else. And once you set a high standard, continue setting a higher and higher standard, because this is simply going to be your way of growing and getting ahead of everybody, like your competition, and more importantly, your past self. By the way, if you're enjoying this so far, really appreciate it if you hit the like button, subscribe button, bell icon, all that fun stuff. All right, number 6, say no. See, when you agree with everyone just to be, on their good side, you have the best chance out of everybody else to get abused and misused. I mean, reality is, do you really want to be a yes man? I assume not. So getting ahead of everyone means being comfortable with saying no. First off, saying no lets you control your time and your energy. Time is your most valuable asset. And if you keep saying yes to everything other people ask you to do, what ends up happening is you end up wasting time and you end up saying no to what you prioritize as being important. So what ends up happening is you get stuck doing other people's work, or you end up chasing their dreams instead of chasing your own. So when you say no, what you're actually doing is you're setting boundaries. You're telling people that you value yourself and your goals, and you're not just some doormat for everyone to just walk over. People will respect you more because they see that you have a higher standard. They know you're not going to jump immediately on everything they say. Once they realize that you have the guts to say no, what actually happens is they're not going to guilt trip you or anything. They're actually going to respect you more. Bottom line is, your job is to make sure that you're happy and on track with your goals. If someone gets upset that you're saying no to them, then that's their problem. It's not yours. And once you learn how to say no more frequently, you'll actually find that you have a lot of time to say yes to the things that matter, to the right things. And being able to choose what to say yes to means that you get to align yourself with what you truly think is valuable in your life. Number 7, sleep. Now, I'm not talking about those pathetic power naps or the so-called polyphasic sleep. I'm not even pronouncing it correctly, but it's essentially where you sleep for like 30-minute segment naps. Look, this is nonsense. You need a full night's sleep, and it's something most people actually skip. Have you heard of the saying, rich people don't sleep? Well, guess what? It's a lie, it's BS. I know plenty of rich people, they get plenty of sleep at night. And if you think successful people are pulling all-nighters, well, no, stop thinking that. You're completely dead wrong. And honestly, I hate hearing that garbage, and you should start hating hearing that kind of stuff too. I want you to try this for yourself. Start going to bed like around 8 or 9 o'clock, and hey, wake up at 5. Solid 8 hours of sleep, and really the minimum that your body needs. Now do this for a week and pay attention to how you feel. You're gonna notice how you interact with people more clearly. You're gonna see how sharply you think of things. You're gonna see how much more effective you are during your day to get stuff done. You'll realize that sleep deprivation is one of the dumbest things solopreneurs can do to really sabotage themselves and their business. I mean, personally, I remember there was a point in time when FOMO was a thing for me, and it would run my life, and I would choose FOMO over sleep. The thing is, you have to think of your brain and your body as like a house. Daily life wears you down just like the weather wears down a house. And sleep is when you repair the damage, or in this case, how you renovate the house. Skip your sleep and you skip your renovations. Keep doing that and your house eventually is gonna fall apart. You really won't be able to do any work at all, and the work that you do is really gonna be unproductive. So there's this thing called cognitive load theory. And it's basically where your working memory can only handle so much information at once. And when you're sleep deprived, your cognitive load capacity, it actually shrinks. This means that you can only think straight, make decisions, and solve problems efficiently for a very small amount of time. So to really drive home this point, yes, rich people, they don't do all-nighters, they actually do sleep. And this is exactly why they're able to keep going and really succeed. Number 8, be silent. Or as I like to call it, just sitting there in silence and being in your thoughts. So Keith Cunningham, in a really great book, I highly recommend you check it out. It's called The Road Less Stupid. He talks about this idea called thinking time. And it really allows us to really process the thoughts, because oftentimes what happens is, we're constantly going like at a fast pace every single day, getting stuff done. But when we can just sit down and just be alone in our thoughts, it really helps clear the mind, reset a lot of anxiety, and makes us think a little bit more critically about our actions. Personally, whenever I'm struggling with a really, really heavy topic that I really need to think through, instead of me just going straight to work, I'll actually block off 10 minutes and just sit there with a pen and a pad and just kind of jot down my stream of consciousness thoughts. What ends up happening is some really cool things. One, I get a lot less anxious. And two, I'm actually able to ask myself better questions to truly try to solve the problem that I'm really trying to solve for. That gives me a more definitive answer that I can actually run with, I can actually use and implement. So be comfortable with being silent. Number 9, quick celebrations. Listen, I know a lot of founders where they think the world revolves around them. And because of this, they get real cocky and they choose not to adapt. And for some of these founders, what ends up happening is they get a big win in the business and they end up celebrating for a very, very, very long time. So long, in fact, that it ends up becoming a detriment to their business. You see, oftentimes when you hit a goal, that's not actually the final stage of your success. But if you have the wrong mindset, and some people do, they think that that is. And what ends up happening is they celebrate that win, but they celebrate that win to the wrong extent. They clean out their bank accounts. They buy expensive and luxury and lavish things. They party. They go through all of these experiences. And what ends up happening is they end up losing all their money. Actually, true story, working with this one private client of mine, his name's Chris. The goal was to try to get to $1 million in under 5 years. Well, hey, guess what? He made it $1 million in under 5 years. Really great. But what ended up happening was he took that money, ended up partying it away. And because of that, literally before the end of the 5th year, he lost it all. He was broke. Conversely, got another client, private client I've been working with for a very long time. His name's Tom. Same goal, same plan, same time span. But the reality is, when he finally hit his $1 million run rate, he celebrated a little, but after that, he just put his head down and he finally went back to work. And because of that, what ended up happening was he invested more in his skills, more in his education. And through that process, he was able to scale up his business to even, more revenue, and hitting 10 million really in about like 2 to 3 years. So don't be Chris, be Tom. Celebrate, but don't celebrate for too long, because you're going to end up wasting all your money. All right, and lastly, number 10, oppose. Now imagine this, you wake up, you turn your alarm off, you take a shower, you go eat breakfast, you go to work, and you get yelled at by a client. Then you do more work, then you go home, then you eat dinner, then maybe you take your clothes off and you just put your feet up and you kind of just Netflix and chill with your partner, you fall asleep, and then the cycle repeats. This should scare the hell out of you. And the reality is, a lot of people in kind of this rat race of being in the 9-to-5 job or being a slave to their business actually have this as their routine. And opposing essentially means breaking out of the mundane, breaking out of the ordinary. Look, I remember being in this phase maybe like 3-4 years ago. And what would happen was I would wake up at like 4 a.m, go to the gym or exercise and work out, start working at 5 a.m, work till 6 p.m, and then have dinner with my wife, and it would be a blur. Maybe have a cocktail, go to bed, watch some TV, go to bed. And I was miserable. Now, fast forward to today, where I actually oppose that lifestyle, because the bottom line is, a mentor of mine called me out and said, hey, you can't live like this. So instead, what I did was I created new ground rules. I didn't want to be a 9-to-5 person and being a slave to my business. I opposed what that lifestyle looked like. And instead, what I did was I converted it. Now, I still get up at 5, but instead I end my day around noon. That means I have the whole afternoon to really hang out with my new son, to hang out with my wife, my family, to do other things outside of work. And then after that, I actually also make sure that I don't work on Fridays unless I need to, so that I can build a business that I actually enjoy, and this business is actually suitable for my now lifestyle. So that being said, I'm telling you now, oppose the lifestyle that you're currently living and change it. Flip it to what you actually want to define as the way that you want to live. If you want to take Fridays off every single day, then take those Fridays off. If you only want to work till noon, then work till noon. But don't wait till you hit your goal. You got to start now.